Dear friends, I welcome you again. I'm on the air, and we're going to talk about the stars. But this time we are going to talk about the woman. In my opinion, the woman is very beautiful, as in the opinion of many for sure. But you remember the story of Monica Bellucci. It is not enough to be beautiful in order to attract, in order to be desired for a long time. Something more than good external data is needed for this. And it is the additional characteristics of femininity, sex appeal, female attractiveness, the ability to seduce, and the ability to charm that the woman we are going to talk about has. The previous videos caused a very big resonance and discontent. You know who it was about the great artist Alain Delon. And you said, one of your most frequent comments, in contrast to my arguments, that he was not the best person. You said that he had a difficult childhood, and he suffered terribly because his parents gave him to a foster family, and did not deal with him, and he was injured, and he could not survive it. And he spewed all his pain on those women with whom he had relationships. Finding women who were weak in spirit, very dependent on him, who loved him to madness, and were ready to endure all bullying. But, friends, undoubtedly, childhood is important. Formation and maturation are important. But it is very important what is given to you from above, what you were born with, because you can go through all the circles of hell, pass the most difficult test, and remain human. Not a beast, but a man. Friends, we are going to talk about a beautiful, and, in my opinion, one of the sexiest women in Hollywood, despite the fact that she is no longer so often filmed. This is Sharon Stone, and two factors inspired me to write Sharon Stone's stories. The first one was my last trip, when my friend PH rearranged his legs and demonstrated the pose of Sharon Stone from the movie Basic Instinct. And the second one is the previous story about the dear Delaunay, because it was this woman who suffered what many stars, including Alain Delon, did not dream of. He did not suffer 1/10 as much as she suffered, but the steadfastness of her character, strength, ability to overcome obstacles, mind, intellect, and most importantly, the heart. A heart that was warm, and remains warm to this day, despite the fact that she received hatred, cruelty, kicks, and bullying all her life. Unlike our previous hero. So, a terrible and probably the most terrible period in the life of this girl, who is 8 years old. You know, she grows up in a family that doesn't really like their children, and Sharon is the eldest. She has a younger sister. And, of course, the youngest is given more attention and more love. Sharon is often alone. But you know she's not alone at night. Because at night, opening the door and bolting it behind him, her grandfather on her mother's side, Clarence Lawson, comes to her. Not even though I pronounce this name. He is a fiend, a tyrant, and a pervert. A sex maniac who bullied little Sharon Stone in every possible way. He raped his granddaughter repeatedly. A girl at the age of 8, and she recalled it in her book, in her memoirs. You know that this is a difficult period. She says that she was so wounded in body and soul, she had no one to share it with. She couldn't go to her mom, who didn't pay attention to her. And as it seemed to Sharon, she doesn't love me, and has never loved me. And the pain she was experiencing herself, itself, not gills it with anyone. The grandmother, who sees that her husband is mocking her granddaughter, tried to intercede, but was beaten half to death in front of Sharon. Sharon Stone recalls giving an interview. She says he was a pedophile and a sexual pervert. There wasn't anyone he wasn't trying to have sex with. He was ready to have sex, even with a chair leg. I was in a lot of pain and worry, and I would have had no one to share my suffering with, family members. You know that not only is she raped by her close relative from the age of 8, but she also systematically receives beatings from her own father. This is a small child who is used to pain. And it seems that this should harden his heart. It should grow up to be a cruel person who does not love anyone around. But Sharon remains a vulnerable, soft, gentle girl. At the age of 14, when she is already growing up, she turns from a little girl gradually into a girl. She is able to protect herself, realizing that there is no one around who could stand up for her. And this little skinny kid, who regularly receives a beating from his father, understands that we must resist. This world is cruel, and if you don't stand up for yourself, no one will protect you. And you know that her whole life will be a struggle. All her life, she is getting injured physically, and psychologically she will struggle. Because she's strong. This is not a coward, and this is not a mean person, and is not angry. She will not acquire the qualities that our previous hero acquired. So, at the age of 14, she was once again brutally beaten by her father, because her father has psychological breakdowns. He does not get along with her mother. He is dissatisfied with life and work. And, of course, who will he beat up? The eldest daughter, who is already wounded after the systematic harassment of her grandfather. Grandfather, not grandfather. Grandpa is a very high term for a creature like Clarence Lawrence. And I certainly won't tell him to rest in peace. Excluded. So, at the age of 14, she gains courage and says, I came up to my father, close, looking him intently in the eyes. And she said, What's the matter? You need to hit me again to feel like a man? I told him that I don't love him, that I never loved him, and I will never love him. And he started crying in response. It was a moment when the father realized that he was behaving incorrectly. He beats up a little innocent daughter to relieve stress from his problems, to get away from problems. He uses it as a punching bag. And you know, she says after that, after my attack on him, he never dared to raise his hand against me again. This little child who has learned to endure the horrors of this life, to whom I would forgive hatred for people, because it is monstrous that she has experienced. But she continues to live and create her life, and go into the future, looking at the world with kind eyes, not embittered, not cruel, not hating people. 18 years old.